Hello, friends. It's me again, Joseph, your host, and welcome back to Catechism for Kids. Today, we're journeying back in time, over 1,000 years ago, to meet one of Germany's most beloved saints, Saint Wolfgang of Regensburg. He was a man famous for his incredible wisdom, his deep faith, and a heart full of love for everyone, especially the poor. So, get comfortable, and let's discover the amazing story of this wise and humble bishop. Saint Wolfgang was born around the year 934, way back in the time of castles and knights. Even as a young boy, he loved to learn. He was a brilliant student, and whatever he learned, he wanted to share. He studied at a famous school in a monastery on an island called Reichenau. There he made a great friend named Henry, and their friendship would change his life. Wolfgang followed his friend Henry to different cities, always learning from the best teachers. He eventually became a teacher himself at a cathedral school in a city called Trier. He was so good and so kind that everyone wanted to learn from him. But Wolfgang felt God was calling him to something more. He wanted to dedicate his entire life to prayer and service. So after his friend Archbishop Henry passed away, Wolfgang decided to become a monk. He joined the Benedictine order at a beautiful abbey in Switzerland called Maria in Zidal. As a monk, he spent his days praying, working, and growing closer to God. He was ordained a priest by another great saint, Saint Ulrich. But God had even bigger plans for him. At that time, there were people called the Magyars, or Hungarians, who hadn't yet heard the good news of Jesus. The Holy Roman Emperor Otto the Great and Saint Ulrich knew that someone special was needed to go and teach them. Who do you think they chose? That's right, Wolfgang. He was known for being wise and gentle, the perfect person for the job. So Wolfgang traveled as a missionary to share God's love with the Hungarian people. His work was so successful that when the bishop of a big city named Regensburg passed away, the emperor knew exactly who should take his place. In the year 972, on Christmas Day, Wolfgang became the new bishop of Regensburg. This was a very important job. As a bishop, he was a leader of the church, a prince of the empire, and even became the tutor to a young boy who would grow up to be Emperor Saint Henry II. But what made Wolfgang truly special was his humility. The Bible tells us in Matthew 20:26, "Whoever wants to be great among you must be your servant." Wolfgang lived this verse every single day. Even though he was a powerful bishop, he lived a simple life, just like a monk. He didn't care for fancy clothes or big palaces. His greatest joy was teaching children about God, caring for the poor, and making sure the churches and monasteries in his care were holy places. He showed everyone that true greatness isn't about being in charge. It's about serving others with a loving heart. He was a great reformer, which means he helped make things better. He worked hard to improve the monasteries. Like the famous St. Emrom's Abbey, he gave them good leaders and encouraged them to follow the rules of St. Benedict, which are all about prayer and work. He knew that when people lived holy lives, the whole world became a better place. Wolfgang was a very busy bishop, but he always knew he needed quiet time to talk with God. Sometimes, he would retreat to a solitary place in the mountains or by a beautiful lake, which is now named Wolfgangsee, or Wolfgang's Lake, in his honor. He went there to pray and listen to God. This teaches us a super important lesson. No matter how busy we get with school, friends, or activities, we should always make time to be quiet and talk with Jesus. Now, let's talk about a fun and famous legend about Saint Wolfgang. One day he wanted to build a church, but he wasn't sure where God wanted it to be. So, he took his axe, prayed, and threw it with all his might into the forest. He decided he would build the church wherever the axe landed. This story reminds us to trust that God has a plan for our lives and will guide us to where we need to be. The axe landed at the perfect spot, and there he built a small chapel. Some versions of the story get even more exciting. Legend says that Wolfgang tricked the devil into helping him build the church, promised the devil the soul of the very first living thing to enter. The devil worked hard, thinking he'd get a person's soul. But once the church was finished, who do you think Wolfgang let in first? A wolf. The devil was furious, but he had been outsmarted. This fun tale shows us that God's wisdom is always greater than any evil, and that good will always win in the end. Because of this story, you'll often see Saint Wolfgang in paintings holding a little church and an axe. Wolfgang lived a long life of service. As an old man, While traveling along the Danube River, he became ill. He asked to be carried into a small chapel dedicated to Saint Othmar, and there, surrounded by prayer, he went home to be with God on October 31st, 994. His body was brought back to Regensburg and buried in the Abbey of Saint Emmeram. Soon, people reported miracles happening at his tomb, and in 1052, the Church officially declared him a saint. He is the patron saint of apoplexy, carpenters, and woodcarvers; paralysis, Regensburg, Germany; stomach diseases, strokes. And Wolfgang is also sometimes counted among the 14 holy helpers. The oldest portrait of Wolfgang is a miniature. It's painted about the year 1100 in the Evangelary of Saint Emmeram, now in the library of the Castle Cathedral at Krakow. A modern picture by Schwind is in the Schack Gallery at Munich. This painting represents the legend of Wolfgang forcing the devil to help him to build a church. In other paintings, he is generally depicted in episcopal dress, an axe in the right hand and the crozier in the left, or as a hermit in the wilderness being discovered by a hunter. This axe is still shown in the little market town of Saint Wolfgang, which sprang up on the spot of the old cell. So what can we learn from Saint Wolfgang? First, use your talents for God. Wolfgang was smart, and he used his mind to learn and teach others about God's love. Whatever you're good at, whether it's art, sports, math, or being a kind friend, you can use that gift to serve God and others. Second, be humble. True leadership is about serving, like Wolfgang. We can show greatness by doing small things with great love, like helping our parents without being asked, or being kind to someone who is lonely. And third, always make time for prayer. Work and prayer go hand in hand. By talking to God every day, we get the strength and wisdom we need to follow Jesus. Like I mentioned before, Saint Wolfgang is the patron saint of carpenters, shepherds, and people who are paralyzed. He shows us that even from heaven, the saints are our friends who continue to pray for us and help us. His life teaches us that ordinary people can do extraordinary things for God. When you trust in God, use your gifts for good, and serve others with a humble heart, God can build something truly amazing through you. Thank you for joining us today to learn about the wise and humble Saint Wolfgang of Regensburg. Let's try to be a little more like him this week. Don't forget to like and share this video, and subscribe to Catechism for Kids for more amazing stories about the saints. Take care, everyone. Stay safe and healthy as usual. See you next time, and God bless you always.